Hi, my name is Patricia Potts. I'm the author of the book, My Journey from Darkness to Light. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of questions. First of all, am I bipolar? And what about medication? What does a telephone and a sleeping bag have to do with each other? Well, in my life they did. About 20 years ago, I happened to be teaching classes about how to understand and overcome depression one step at a time, as well as helping with a support group for women who were going through depression and all of that when I landed smack dab in depression. I had to stop teaching, and shortly after that, after my kids got to school, I just wanted to crawl into a hole someplace and make it so that I had nothing to do with the world. I did the next best thing. I got a sleeping bag and I climbed in it, inside the sleeping bag, underneath the table, and just laid there for a while. I remember thinking, I don't want to talk to anybody that I know, but I need to talk to somebody. So I looked up a phone number of who to call when you're going through depression and things. Got on the telephone and called that number. What I heard was, "We're sorry, we're not in the office right now. Please leave a message after the beep. Or call thus and such a number for the suicide line. Thank you, goodbye." Oh, I was so angry. I thought, how can you offer help like that and then nobody's even there? I called the suicide line. "Hello, do I have to be standing here with a razor to my wrist in order to have somebody willing to talk to me?" Fortunately, the volunteer on the other line was very understanding and listened to my story as I told her the stages of overcoming depression and all about cognitive therapy. Still, couldn't do anything about where I was at. She said, "You need to get to a psychiatrist. You need to be evaluated for medication." Later that day, I talked to another friend that I worked with in this group to support women. She said, "Patricia, I bet you're bipolar. You seem a lot like me. I think you should be evaluated for that." And so I got on the phone and made an appointment with a psychiatrist and then waited. It took some time to get in. In the meantime, I did cognitive therapy and some of the other tools that I'd already learned. I got more and more nervous when the appointment time came. I kept praying that God would help me to be able to find the right medication. A lot of people didn't get the right medication. I didn't want to be one of those. So finally, the day before my appointment, I called about 15 of my friends and said, "Please, will you pray for me at around 10 o'clock? I should be at the psychiatrist. Please pray." At the psychiatrist, I was diagnosed as bipolar and given a prescription for lithium. I went to the pharmacist, filled the prescription, and when I got home, took it. Within a very short time, I started shaking and being anxious and walking up and down in the living room. And I thought, oh no, I've been given the wrong medication after all. I called the pharmacist and he said, there's more than one kind type, that you could have. Maybe you could suggest getting time released. That might work. And so I was able to do that, switch my first prescription for a time released prescription. And that worked a lot better. Well, about 10 days after I began the medicine, I was walking around the block. And I'll never forget, it seemed to me that it was one step to the next. The clouds lifted, and I was able to think. The medicine made such a difference. I was able to recover and continue on with some of the work that I had been doing. But a few years went by, and I began to think, hey, we could save some money if I didn't have to keep getting this medicine every month. If I'm just righteous enough, spiritual enough, if I just try hard enough, and if I'm doing my cognitive therapy and my journaling and all of that, I'll bet I don't need the medicine anymore. And so I went off of it. Twice I went off of it before I finally learned that like a diabetic needs his medicine, I needed my medication. I went to my doctor, Brian Malden, who helped diagnose me or helped me become stable, actually, that last time. And instead of taking 1.5 tablets of lithium, I ended up having to take 2 plus Neurontin on top of that in order to get stabilized. But ever since then, I haven't gone off of my medication. So that's my story. I want to summarize by talking about the first question, am I bipolar? Nobody can really say that one way or the other, but I can tell you for me, it was very much up or down. And my depressions, when they came hard and from one day to the next. Number 2, what about medication? Couple of things to think about from what I had learned. First of all, if you're doing all that you can and yet you're still depressed, cognitive therapy, other mental health things, exercise, it's probably time to see a psychiatrist. Number 2, when my prayers were not getting anywhere, ask others to pray for you so that you can find the right medication and get the help that you need in recovering. Number 3, you might need time released or another form of the medication that you're on. Number 4, when you've found what works, stay on your medication. This isn't just a fly-by-night thing, especially bipolar. It's a lifetime thing. And so I hope that I've been able to be helpful to you today. There is a PowerPoint presentation about bipolar illness that only takes about 5 minutes on my website, patriciapotts.com. Also, there's other ideas in my book, My Journey from Darkness to Light. I hope this has been helpful to you today. Have a terrific day. Thanks.